Hi everyone, and welcome to Scorpio's June 2021 Curiosity, Courage, and Contemplation reading. For everyone who is new and returning, welcome. This is I Am Illuminated Tarot and meaning-based spiritual coaching services. All of my content is going to be based around the Triad of Engagement, which is looking at the three basic principles of curiosity, courage, and contemplation, and showing you how, when applied together, they can keep you fully engaged and in flow with the unique energetic imprint of your life. All content, both here on my website and on my Patreon page, are here to help you answer your very own I am question, so that you can re-engage with life in a more authentic, meaningful, and emotionally fulfilling way. And when I talk about your own I am question, it's that question when someone would ask you, who are you? Stand in front of a crowd and sum up in just a few sentences who you are. It's really to get you to engage with how you would answer that question, perhaps in the past, but more specifically in the present. And if you would like additional information about my website or Patreon page, where there is additional readings and expanded information, you can click on the links in the description box below. It will also, if you're interested in learning more about the Triad of Engagement, there is a video as well that will help show you how, when you work with these three principles, they can liberate you from the feelings of frustration, anxiety, detachment, and reconnect you with the feelings of purpose and passion and emotional fulfillment. All right, guys, let's get right into your Scorpio reading. So how these readings are set up is we will pull a main energetic read for curiosity, one for courage, and one for contemplation. We'll pull advice cards as well, and then I'll go into really taking an intuitive dive into each principle and showing you how they connect so that you can make the most out of June. All right, Scorpios, I hope so far everything has been wonderful for you. June is a really interesting month. It's going to be a month where there's going to be a lot of a look at our connections, our interpersonal connections with others, and where we kind of stand as separate individuals from others, but how we bring that into the collective experience. So for you, we are going to pull a main energetic card for curiosity. And when I talk about the principle of curiosity, I am talking about optimism, receptivity, openness. This is the start of how we engage with life. But this is the part where, when you think of being curious, this is where we interact with the unknown. And oftentimes as we get older, so if you think of a child, children often are very open to the unknown and will, just kind of run headlong into discovering something or playing with something, or again, being open to discuss something even. And as we get older, we tend to lose that element of curiosity. We can either become jaded by our personal experiences, or we can just simply lose touch and feel that, well, we've experienced a lot and this is the way things are, and we just lose that more sense of wonder and awe that come with curiosity. And that really taps into the openness and optimism component to curiosity that really helps us engage with the unknown of life and engage in a receptive way instead of a blocking way, instead of a way that almost can come from a point of fear or anxiousness because we don't want change. We don't want to assume that there's the unknown component at any given time to our lives. And instead of being excited about the unknown, being excited every day as to what's coming in, keeping you present in the moment, keeping you engaged. So you guys, your main energetic read for curiosity this month is Magician and the Mirror. And for curiosity, this is really where I look at the divine, whatever you choose to call it, whether you call it the universe, you call it a divine design, God, or just simply the unknown. This is really where this is the kind of uncontrollable factor. This is the X factor in our lives. When we move into courage, courage is where we step into our seat of personal power. This is the free will component that then engages with the divine or the unknown, the change component here. So if you think about it, this is where we can act based on what comes in. So this is why starting with being receptive from an optimistic and open way is really important to then moving into your seat of personal power and being able to maximize when you decide to take, when you come from a place of courage and you decide to take action based on what's coming in. This is how you then are acting in the present moment and then really shaping your reality. So as we talk about courage, I always lump courage in with courageous action because all action takes an element of courage. Whether this is courage on a level of you getting out of bed in the morning, or courage on a large level like you going off to war or leaving a stable job to start a personal business. There are all kinds of different actions and levels of actions we take, but depending on where you are in your life, simply the act of getting out of bed in the morning can be take just as much courage as it does to do the other two things that I just described. So we really can't judge ourselves and the level of courage that we bring into anything, to any decision or action chosen by us. We can't judge it against another's because our experience is unique. So as we're thinking about the concept of courage, we're thinking about action, expression. This is really where we can express ourselves, express what we have learned in the past, express who we are in the present, as well as initiation. So this can also be where we are initiating new things as we interact with, the unknown coming in. This is where we can initiate something, but again, coming from a place of authenticity and awareness. And for you guys, you have here the 6th chakra, Archangel Metatron. And this really kind of focuses on, I don't know if you guys can see, but it's kind of the third eye here. And then we will move into contemplation. Now, when we're talking about the Triad of Engagement, there are the 3 cornerstone principles. But contemplation really is the principle that ties the other two together. This is where we engage our internal self with our external environment. And this is when I talk about re-engagement. This is how we keep engaged with life and we stay in flow. And really where we can repair if we feel that we're out of flow or if we're kind of slipping in the gears, so to speak. Contemplation comes in and rounds out this experience, because without contemplation, which is the seat of integration, reflection, learning, self-education, this doesn't really matter. You can act from a place of courage until the cows come home, and you can be ready and willing for what the universe brings in, but if you aren't contemplating on the consequences of your actions, of the interaction between you and your external environment, and are constantly learning from that environment and learning from what comes from these actions and then applying what has been learned. This is really where you limit your growth potential. This is where you limit your evolutionary path to becoming the best version of yourself. And this is also where we can forget, as we are contemplating, that we do have, every one of our actions, we don't live in an island. They do affect other people. And this is really where we remind ourselves that as much as we have our own unique experience that no one else will ever have, we are our own singularity. But that we also live in a world of interpersonal connectivity. And that it's just as important to focus on yourself and how you connect with your, environment to be able to create your reality. It's also as important to be aware of your effect on others and to be aware of your impact, because this is really where meaning and a sense of feeling of purpose come from. That you are joining the collective experience, that you have something to offer and lend. And that as you evolve, you're evolving into the best version of yourself to ultimately help and uplift the entire human experience. Now for contemplation, you have man holding a heart. Okay, so we have, and then as for your underlying energy for this whole category here, you have 5th chakra, Archangel Gabriel, and this is the throat chakra for anyone who is not aware. And again, we'll go into all of these cards here in just a minute. Now I'm going to quickly pull out a piece of advice from whatever you decide to call it, whether it's the divine, the universe, God, people looking out for you, deceased loved ones in the spirit world. So for Magician in the Mirror and the element of curiosity, you have choices. For the element of courage, that popped right out. You have soul solitude, and again, we'll go over each one of these in greater detail. And then for contemplation and man holding a heart, let's see what the piece of advice is. What's coming through for my Scorpios for the element of contemplation this month? Well, as I'm pulling this here, contemplation is also where we really move into, so if we look at curiosity is really our intent. This is us getting ready to build to interact with an experience. Courage is where we this is where the seed of movement in our life comes from. This is where we're going to take action, and this is where an event can happen. So we go from readiness and intent to create an experience, to then we move into actually taking action, creating movement, and moving into the event itself. And then here is where we have a reaction and a consequence, and we move into our seat of personal responsibility regarding that consequence. So here you have forgiveness. Holding on to resentment and anger is preventing or even suffocating your spiritual growth. Now we'll go into further reading of that, but forgiveness is a very powerful card. And then for the underlying energy, we have take a moment. I'll put this over here. And then last but not least, this is another advice card that I pull, but it's more of an encouragement card. I feel like this is more of a, keep going from the universe. So we have Star Mother for curiosity. For courage, we have, what do my Scorpios need to know for their point of courageous action this month? What's a message of encouragement here? Message of encouragement. That's a lot, but I guess I'll take it. Okay, so we have Keepers of the Earth. You are not alone. Ancient ancestors stand beside you. We have the ever unfolding rose and Akasha. Your guidance is divinely guided. And again, we will go into all of these. And then for contemplation, your seat of self-education, transcendence, and growth. Let's see what you have as encouragement. Oh, I love this card. Leap. You go first, the universe will catch you. Beautiful. Gosh, some really cool cards for you guys this month. And then on the bottom, as an underlying energy here, you have Lemuria. Creating heaven on earth, it's happening. There's a lot coming in for you Scorpios this month. Okay. And I'm sorry as I kick the camera, make sure everything's still good there. Okay, guys. So intuitively, as we start with the element of curiosity, and again, for curiosity, we are looking at receptivity to the unknown and bringing in a sense of awe and wonder that is similar to how a child views the world. So it's almost like as we're tapping into the sense of curiosity this month, we are wiping clean all of those thoughts that come up that are like, no, I've done that before. I'm not going to go do that again. No, I'm not going to try that or listen to this or read that because I've already experienced it, because it didn't help me in the past, because I didn't like that food when I ate it the last time. This is about kind of wiping that slate clean and saying, I'm going to be curious. Every day is a new day. Every moment is a new moment. Every person that you meet is also on a path of evolutionary change. And when I look at Magician in the Mirror, this is a beautiful card. It's really driving home that message of we are the magician in our own life. We have the ability to create what we want. The magician in the traditional tarot has each one of the different elements of the tarot. So there are wands, cups, pentacles, and I'm totally blanking, swords, that represent the four sides to ourselves. They represent the emotional side, the mental side, the passion and action side, and the tangible physical element of our experience. And the Magician card is part of the major arcana and shows a man standing in front of a table with each one of these at his use, meaning that he has the ability to work with all of these ingredients to create the world that he wants. Now, this card in this specific oracle deck really shows, you can see kind of fire off to one side and this cooler element to the other. And this could be looking at, kind of fire and ice, fire and water. But there's this component of he's working with everything and he has the ability to create what he wants. But then there's this reflective quality of whatever you decide to put out there is going to come back to you. And the other side too is that what you're working with and what you want to create will also be seen by others. So in bringing this into the element of curiosity, where it's about being receptive and open, when we think of ourselves as the magician, as the person that has that ability to pull from every aspect of our lives to really create the reality that we are seeking for ourselves, that is right for us, that feels right. Where are we perhaps blocking ourselves? Because our biggest block from engaging with life, and when I say engaging, I don't just mean that every day you get up and you you go to the store, you cook dinner, sign on to work. I mean, you are bringing yourself, you're fully engaged. Whether you're playing with your children, whether you're folding laundry, whether you're giving a speech, you in that moment are doing that task with awareness. And with an awareness that you are feeling into it at the same time. So you're bringing a level of emotional connection to it. So we really can't experience elements of our lives until we feel them. So this is really, when you're engaged, you're aware. And this is where we can sit here and realize when we're doing a task, when we're aware of it, that, this doesn't really make me feel good right now. Or this makes me feel great. Or I'm kind of ambivalent and this is just one of those tasks, but can I in this moment bring meaning to it? Maybe I'm just folding laundry, but this is an important element of keeping my family's home structure organized and clean, and a way that I show love and support to my family. And that gives me a sense of meaning in this moment, even though this is a very boring, mundane task. And that's how we engage in a meaningful way, and in a way that continues to help us come from a place of love and growth. And again, the ability to change things up if we realize that we don't feel that emotional connection, or bringing in a negative connection. But with the Magician in the Mirror, this is about being open to how you can, instead of, let me see, how can I say this? Let me take a drink of water and think about it. So when we're thinking about the mirror and reflections, we can oftentimes put up as a block our own, instead of actually seeing what's coming in and being open to others and just the general experiences out there, we can almost put up our own mirror and see only what we want to see. So this can come in the form of, when we meet people, we instantly put on them our own experience. Meaning, we can meet somebody and instantly make a judgment and say, oh, no, I've already, I'm going to put up my mirror. I know what this person's like. I know what this type of person is like. And you cut yourself off from actually taking this person as a unique individual and as your connection to them, as a singularity in this moment, that you're connecting with somebody who, even if you have met them a million times, in this moment, they might have evolved, they might have grown, they might have changed, or they might have just come into a piece of information that they're going to share with you in some capacity. But if you aren't open and receptive and curious to them or to the experience as a whole, and you're only looking at your own mirror as a projection in front, you're blocking yourself from what the universe is trying to bring in. Especially if it is an element of change, or when we're looking at the month of June, this element of connectivity between yourself and another, you might actually lose that awesome opportunity to be able to engage in an authentic way with somebody else. And in thinking about the magician component of this, and thinking about how we can really pull from all these aspects of ourselves to continually create what we want, that we can combine fire and ice and transmute it into whatever we choose to make it. I mean, when you think of the quality of a magician can make anything. That's the element of magic, right? That one minute he or she can stick something in your hand and you feel you're holding it, they can snap their fingers and that's gone and you have no idea. Or the magic component of how life is interwoven together. There's subtle magic and there is tangible magic. And whether or not you believe in magic, quote unquote, there is an element of the unknown in all magic. And that's really where I feel like right here, this is kind of perhaps a lot of you up until this point, I'm just feeling this intuitively, might have kind of disconnected yourself from that magical side of life. Disconnected yourself by putting up your own mirror, your own projection for too long. And now everybody is just a reflection of you. And that can get to be a little, I wouldn't say dangerous, but when everybody becomes a reflection of you, that's where we can really get into our heads a little too much, where we can get a little hypercritical, because we tend to then project onto others and as well as circumstances, parts of ourselves that we are uncomfortable with, parts of ourselves that annoy us, parts of ourselves that we are not excited about, or vice versa. We could actually sometimes project onto somebody who's maybe not healthy for us. We try to project the best version of ourselves on them and say, well, I can still see through that awful part of them and see the part that resonates with me. And in reality, yes, there's always a part of somebody else that we can connect with. But where it gets to be dangerous is when we're trying to see too much of ourselves in another instead of taking them as the unique individual that they are. And we do want to always interact with somebody from a place of us trying to relate, trying to be empathetic, because we all do on some level have some way to relate to something. And on just a very basic level, it's just coming from the energy of love and being able to love that they're having a human experience as much as we are having a human experience, and that's shared in whatever moment you are choosing to be in that experience. But I really feel here what these cards are telling me is that you have been blocking yourself off from kind of seeing the magic of life, seeing that element, bringing in that sense of awe and wonder and optimism, and really realizing that life can throw so many choices at us. Coming into your piece of advice, life really has that ability to surround us with that element of it. The world's your oyster. If you're the magician, there is a lot at your disposal to be able to make something fresh and new and to interact with. That is actually one of the key elements of being human, is that we are incredibly innovative. We can take things that don't seem to go together or don't seem to work for us, and we can change and manipulate them, and almost as if by magic, create something new and something that benefits us and something that elevates our experience. And so with this month, as we start to move in and you start to kind of take a look at what's coming in for you, it's about removing the mirror. If you think of Alice in Wonderland, and I think it was the Jabberwocky, and she's looking through the mirror there, and it's like at a certain point you have to break that mirror and see things for what they are and be ready for what comes through. Now, it could be the Jabberwocky that comes through, and that's the fear. That's where we block ourselves off from engaging with life in that optimistic way. That's where we live with a constant sense of anxiety, dread, instead of, oh my gosh, what if it's not the Jabberwocky that comes through the glass from the other side? What if when I break down my carefully constructed hall of mirrors, that what comes in are the choices, are the opportunities, this is the seat of where I can start to see what's around me, to play with, to then create through free will and courageous action. I can actually engage with, I can see what's out there at my disposal. I can see all the tools on my table to work with to really define what I can create this month. And what you can create this month is a lot. I mean, to really harness that energy of the magician and to be aware of the magic of life, to be open to what's going to come in. And when I talk about magic, I mean, there is truly a sense of magic. There's that element that somebody out there every day buys a winning lotto ticket, or somebody out there gets blessed in a way that they never thought that was going to happen to them, whether it's getting the job that is a dream job, or it's finding out you're pregnant after you thought that you couldn't conceive, or it's learning that you have an opportunity to travel to a place in the world that you never thought you'd see. And it happens just like that. And that is magic. That is, we don't know from one minute to the next what life is going to bring in for us. And it's about getting excited about that. It's about seeing how you can interact with it, seeing once you break that glass down and what's out there for you, really getting excited and being open for what's coming in. Because then we have, as your piece of advice from the universe, we have choices. And it says, when you accept responsibility for your life and the choices you make, you begin to tap into the power of your own spirit. You'll be able to listen to and appreciate the intuitive wisdom that's inside you and apply it positively and constructively to your outside world. And this, I think, links beautifully to this, that we have within us the magician as much as there is magic outside of us. And really, it's about tapping into your own ability, to your own unique ability that is truly different from everybody else. We are all the magicians in our own life, and we each have on our table the 4 main elements, but then a bazillion other elements that combine together and that are at our disposal that are completely different from everybody else. And those other elements are our environment. It's the people we're surrounded by. It's how open we are to actually seeing what's out there for us. But once you realize that there are these opportunities and what's coming in is it's building on your own ability to create what you want, that's when you can actually take your own self and then start to really put it out there. Start to connect it with your outside world. Start to connect it so that you do have choices, you do have opportunities, and you're not putting up kind of a fake a fake view of the world. You're actually engaging with it from a place of true openness. I'm going to knock this mirror down, and even if what comes in could be a little scary, I'm going to realize whatever that comes in is going to help me engage with my core talents. It's going to help me engage once we move into here and into the element of free will and courageous action. It's going to help highlight something on my table that perhaps I have never tapped into. You know, it's kind of like if you think of Superman. If Superman had never been pushed to realize that he could fly, he would go through his whole life with that on his table, but he would never have it, he would never use it. So we all kind of have to be at some point open to what comes in, even if it seems a little scary, but that scary is all perspective. The unknown is only scary until we realize that we have everything at our disposal as the magician in our own lives to take what comes in and take it and use it. So we may think that something coming in like losing a job is scary, but in reality, that's pushing you to, as we stay open, to saying, okay, well, why did I lose that job? You know, is it because it wasn't helping with my evolutionary growth in this moment? It was pushing me to grow, to utilize something on my table that I had not seen before, that I had not been open to. And now I'm going to learn how to use that, so that in my reflective component, I'm going to integrate that. And I'm going to learn, just like Superman, that I can fly. And it might have been really scary, like getting kicked off the cliff. But in that moment, I learned that I could do something amazing. And I step into my seat of personal power. And personal power is where we move from anxiety towards the unknown and into trust and faith and purpose. And that element of, I can't control everything, but I can control how I experience what happens in my life, how my perspective of what happens in my life. And that's really where the true magician component comes in. And as your word of encouragement from Spirit, the universe, God, we have Star Mother. And it says, how can you mother yourself? And this is a really important component. It doesn't matter if, how you identify as female or male. When we're thinking about mother, the archetype of the mother, as well as feminine energy, this is that kind of seat of, I always look at it as just kind of pure love and nurturing, and realizing that sometimes we, especially when we're thinking about curiosity and staying open, we cut ourselves off from being open to what comes in our life because we don't want to be hurt. Because we are afraid that we could get kicked off of a cliff, and what if we're not Superman and we can't fly? But in reality, what comes in for us is always meant for us. And so if you got kicked off a cliff, you maybe learn that maybe you can't fly, but you're Spider-Man and you can spin a web and stick to the side of the cliff. Or that you have the ability to project a walkway that you can land on safely. There's always going to be something that's going to come out of you through an experience, no matter whether that experience is great, like winning the lottery. And sometimes things that look good on paper end up turning out negative, but still teach us something about ourselves. Like you could win the lottery and realize that you don't handle money very well, and you'll end up having to declare bankruptcy 3 years later. And through that, you learn, oh, okay, this is the value of money. And moving forward, I'm going to, realize that I can make just as much use with a smaller amount than with a larger amount. And again, these are all elements of us staying open. But with how can you mother yourself? There is this element of we block ourselves off from what's coming in because we're afraid, just like a child, of getting hurt. And instead of looking at something with awe and wonder, we look at something from the place of, I did get on that bike with a sense of awe and wonder, but then I fell off and I skinned my knee. And now I'm looking at that bike as something dangerous and scary. And instead of getting on and saying, I skinned my knee, but the benefit of getting back on and engaging with this bike is that eventually I'm going to fly like the wind, and it's going to feel so amazing to get to ride down the hill and meet up with my friends, and we're going to do fun things on that bike. And that's what your mother would tell you. Your mother would come over, kiss your wounded little knee, put a Band-Aid on it, say, sweetheart, get back up. Go back out there. You did your best. Everybody falls down. And that's really where I think the element of encourage is going to come from when you're sitting here thinking, how am I going to stay open this month? It's been difficult. How am I going to tap back into seeing the magic of life again? Of starting to be open to all these choices I have and bringing my authentic self in to interact with them. How am I going to do that when I'm scared? I've been hurt. That's why I put up this mirror. And I'm scared. I can see the shadow of the Jabberwocky out there, and I don't want to shatter this mirror right now. But in reality, if you were a mother looking at your child and your child was saying this, so let's say your child did skin their knee and they ran up to their room and they said, I don't want to, I'm never going to leave my room and I'm never going to get on that bike again. Well, as a mother, you'd want to say, I hear you, I understand. But as a mother, you wouldn't want your child to spend the rest of their life locked in their room, fearful of everything outside of that door, because you would know how much what they're missing out on, all the happiness and beauty and magic that life holds. And it would pain you to see your own child cut themselves off from those possibilities. And that's really where I'm seeing here that Spirit's coming in to say, don't cut yourself off from what we're trying to bring in for you. Because what we're bringing in this month is going to be amazing. It's going to be coming from a place of magic. It's going to be coming from a place of getting you back in line with your purpose. Back in line in when you engage with what we're bringing in for you, it's going to click and you're going to just feel and flow. And it's going to be the start of something amazing. Because as we then move into your seat of free will and your seat of power here, for courage, you have 6th chakra, Archangel Metatron. And the 6th chakra really is the third eye. It's where we can see. We can start to really see the bigger picture, see beyond, and tap into what else is possible for us, and to courageously act from this place, to start to expand our vision. So if we're the magician and we're now becoming open to what's coming in, working with your third eye, your 6th chakra, then this is where we're being asked to see the bigger picture, to tap into ourselves and our connection with Source Spirit. And to see how everything is connected. To help us see beyond just what is and into the magic of life. And into the spiritual component. The unexplainable, but yet we can feel it. We feel the connection. And the beautiful element of this is that this is really powerful. I mean, this is bringing in the magician here. That you, as you're choosing to stay open, as you're knocking down these mirrored walls, you're moving from just seeing your own reflection to then seeing how you fit in the actions that you take into the greater reality. And you see how it's all connected. And so as you start to take action this month, it's about coming from a place of every time you take action and you're open to what's coming in and you make a decision, it's about realizing that that decision in that moment, no matter how small or how large, is helping broaden the view of what's to come for you. I feel that June, this is kind of a pivotal opening month. Just intuitively, I'm getting really that you guys have felt kind of closed a little bit up until this point. I know, obviously, coming out of the pandemic and coming into this month where the energy was kind of like slingshotty, but like start-stop. It's like we were slingshot, but then it's like halt. Gotta go pick it up again and sling it, put the ball back in the slingshot. It's a little, let's go, let's stop, let's go, let's stop. I think for you guys, you might have felt that you were almost like in a cocoon and you were a little cut off, or maybe not even cut off, but that you were kind of gaining your bearings, and that you had created this little bubble for yourself and had everything just so. and you had your mirror up and you were seeing things through the lens of your you, as everything is reflective of you. And now this is really where there's a big push of energy coming from the universe to say it's time, it's okay to break down those barriers that you've put up as points of basically self-protection. And that we're going to help you see the bigger vision. We're going to help you in this month open up to the possibilities again of your life. And that each action, no matter how small, whether it's just saying yes to going to lunch with a friend you haven't seen in a long time and you're just ready to engage in an open way with that person, or whether it's saying yes to taking a new job, or saying yes to taking a different way to work, or anything that's just a little different. And I'm gonna try this out. I'm gonna go to this place for dinner, and I haven't been there in a long time. Each one of those little steps is going to show you your connection, show you how you are the magician, show you, highlight, almost like somebody's putting a little beam of light on all those things at your table that you have not wanted to play with, not wanted to realize the magic that is unique to you. And the piece of advice here, if I can pick it up, is soul solitude. It says your soul needs attention. There are moments when it's important to get away, not just from the noise of the outside world, but to find a place where your soul can experience peace and quiet, a place for soul solitude. This is a time to pause, a time to reflect, a time for you. And I think that ties in perfectly with what we were talking about here, is that, and also coming into this card over here that talks about taking what's inside you and then applying that to the outside world. This is really that point right here. It's about tapping into yourself, tapping in a way where if you are going to break that mirror down and you're going to see life from a fresh perspective, and you are, instead of being fearful of what's coming in, you're going to be open to it because you know that it's going to shine a light on something, on a tool within yourself, on a tool that is truly your soul that you have not connected with, or not connected with in a long time, that you're going to need to have a little bit of that peace, that quietness, that your actions, each time you take them, there's an element here that I'm not feeling frenetic energy. This is going to be kind of like a smooth month for you guys, where some months it can feel like it's like go, 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 or there's chaos, or we're trying to have to make, getting pulled in a bunch of different directions. And for me, I feel like this is really, it's coming internally. And it's almost like as you're internally coming back to life, your external walls are dropping, and it's almost like at the same time, light's coming in from all aspects. The light's coming in now from the external world, and your light is coming on from the inside, and they're merging together to almost create this like supernova effect of, clarity, I see now. This is what's at my disposal. This is what, I have so much. I don't have to be afraid. I don't have to put up those barriers. I don't have to play those games or avoid this or do that. I can just be me, interacting with the world in a fresh way. But in order for you to do that, the advice is really to come back to you. Come back to yourself, to really look at your table, and each time you choose to take action this month and you choose to step into courage, and really where courage is going to come from is picking up whatever new tool is on your table that is being highlighted, and not be afraid to go try it out. Not be afraid to get on that bike, even if it means you might fall down. There's a component to this where this is part of the divine design. This is where you have the free will to interact with what the universe is bringing in. And if we're connecting with awe and wonder here, we're connecting with faith and trust. in the goodness and the purpose and the meaning behind the universe and our experience. And even if you fall off that bike, you know that that bike was a gift from the universe, and that once you get back up and on it again, there's something about that bike that's going to take you somewhere. There's something about that bike that you need to tap into. So even if you fall down the first time, you got to learn to master it. And that's really where, when you focus and you start to look for the bigger picture and you start to think about that as you're taking action, there may be some things that are highlighted that are kind of scary or shocking even, where something will come in and you'll have to tap into a skill set or a side to yourself that you never thought anybody would notice, or that you'd ever have to use, or that you're kind of uncomfortable using. You know, you could be asked to get up and give a speech in front of a lot of people, and you're going to look at yourself and say, oh my gosh, I always thought I was bad at that, or I never noticed that I was a good speaker, or that I was really knowledgeable on that topic, but somebody just came in and told me I was and asked me if I would do this. And that can be scary. It can be nerve-wracking. I have to get up now in front of, 200 people and talk about a topic that I feel knowledgeable on, but I didn't realize that people saw me as that knowledgeable. But then that's where the courage comes in. That's where that little beam of light is shining, and it's saying, pick me up. Pick me up and use me to create and to grow and to evolve your reality. And then down here we have all these cards. We have Keepers of the Earth, which is you are not alone. Ancient ancestors stand beside you. The ever unfolding rose, and it says cracked open. It's happening for you, not to you. And Akasha, your guidance is divinely guided. And I think that these all tie in just absolutely beautifully here, especially the ever unfolding rose. I think a lot of times when we block ourselves off from change and what's coming in, we really, this one line, it's happening for you, not to you. We give up our seat of personal power because we start to look at life as all these things that just happen to us. Like, why does the universe keep making these things happen for me? Why did that person leave me? Why did I lose my job? Why did, and this stuff just keeps getting thrown at me. Instead of looking at it from the reverse and saying, this is not happening to me where I have really no control over it. This is happening for me, where I'm being asked to learn and interact with the experience to expand and grow myself to something even better, more beautiful, to, when it says cracked open, to open that shell, to put a crack in the mirror so that you can start to see the light on the other side come through. And as you're going through this month and you're thinking about, places where perhaps you're afraid, and that's going to take courage to step in and take action, that realize that each time you take action, you are you're bringing that power back to you. And that you're engaging with life in an authentic way. You're not engaging with life from a place of anxiety. You're engaging with life from a place of trust and faith and excitement. Because you're going to wait to see what you're going to bloom into here. And with Keepers of the Earth, you are not alone. Ancient ancestors stand beside you. This shows me that you may feel in the moment this month that you are alone, or maybe you felt alone up until now. And at this point, when you start to become open again to everyone around you, you also start to realize that everybody has, their own tribe of people around them. But everybody also, when you look back through time, has had their own experiences. And if at any point you're feeling a little lost, or you're wondering, this is new to me, you have people who are there, whether they're here in the now, in the present, or they are helping you if you do believe that you have ancient ancestors with you, spirit guides, God, angels, that there are people here, that there is an element of divine guidance to all of our lives. And that if we need to ask for assistance in that moment, because courage is hard. We can talk about standing up and being strong and taking action from a place of, courage. But in that moment, to say yes or no, that can take so much. And sometimes it just takes a moment to go back into ourselves, sit quietly, and just ask, put a prayer out to the universe. I need help in making this decision. Give me the courage, help me to find the courage to do so. Or reaching out to somebody who is actually around you, that you can get advice from, or that you can at least just express, I'm afraid. I want to say yes, but I'm afraid. Or I don't know how to do this. I just got asked to take this on and I don't know how to use this new part of myself. And that's where there's always somebody who does. And that's the connectivity. That's how we engage our internal selves with the external collective experience. And then we have Akasha. Your guidance is divinely guided. And this is really showing here that if you do reach out to somebody and they give you a piece of advice, it's coming from a good place. It's coming from a beneficial place, as well as your internal guidance. So as you're sitting with yourself and each time, kind of feeling into, okay, if I make this decision, how would that feel? If I make this decision, how would that feel? To know that when something feels better than another, that is guidance. And that this is leading you towards your evolutionary growth, your ability to transcend your initial, original experience, to then eventually turn into the best version of yourself and connect that with the greater, collective human experience. That's the push that that's the chance that we're all given. We don't all take it, or we lose sight of that. But we all have that ability. That's the hope for all of us. So, as we move from openness to the magic of life, what's coming in, to interacting from a place of what are we going to see in ourselves that we had yet to be pushed to interact with and see, and to courageously take action to wield whatever is shown and illuminated to us, then we move into contemplation. And contemplation is, again, this is the seat of learning, the seat of integration, the seat of eventually transcendence, because we've learned, we've reflected, we've seen the consequences, and we can integrate that into our lives. And we have man holding a heart. And really what it's funny, with these two cards coming up together, as this being the advice for this card, I really feel that there's an element of contemplating somehow on romantic connections in your life and the support that come from them. And that can be highlighted here with, as again, we're kind of knocking down our, mirrored walls, and we're starting to see, let what comes in come in, that it might bring up places where we were either hurt in the past by relationships, or also not even just, this is more the relationship with the masculine. So it doesn't have to be like you are a female, you're a woman, and this is a man. This could be something more along the lines of your contemplating and reflecting on your interactions with the masculine energy in your life, or even bringing it into the male energy. So when we talk about masculine energy, that is where we take action, it's movement forward, versus, let's say, the feminine energy, which is receptive. Both elements are but feminine is creative in a receptive way, and masculine energy is creative, but in a pushing, external way. And it's really about looking at, actually what I'm intuitively getting right now is, I feel like I'm just hearing it. Look at your interactions with masculine figures in your life as well, and how that has impacted how your own internal masculine energy. So we all have masculine energy within ourselves as much as feminine energy. And we look to balance those out in the way that, best suits us. Now, thinking about masculine energy as where to take action and creating from a place of movement, of external movement, in contemplating your interactions with other masculine energies in your life, this can be your father, this could be father figures, this could be, somebody at work who was a mentor who kind of embodied this. This could actually be male figures in your life from in a romantic setting, or somebody in your life who held that masculine energy that you connected with. And really take a look at, it's man holding a heart. That there's this element of perhaps when you're reevaluating and contemplating your interaction with masculine energy in your life and how it's affected how you've taken action previously, about coming back to that sense of love and realizing that just like you right now in this very moment, in this month specifically in June, you're breaking down a lot of your own walls that you've built because you've been hurt. Whether it's just all these little tiny things in life that have built up, or whether there's been some big life-changing moments that have really forced you to kind of put up a protective barrier. But that at some point, there are people in your life who have been very close to you that have had to do the same thing and that have gone through a similar time period, and that perhaps they made decisions that affected you and affected your ability to take action, affected your ability to take what you have internally and create externally. Again, working with that masculine energy of external creation. And it's time to forgive. It's time to forgive them for possibly the mistakes that you feel have impacted your ability and what you've been able to create for yourself thus far. And this can be, examples of this could literally be your father figure, that perhaps you feel like you never were able to live up to their expectations of you. And so your external actions were so focused on playing to what you thought this person wanted you to do. And so you neglected some of the cool other magic talents on your table because you were trying to pick up the one element that this person kind of forced you to focus on. But in reality, this person was only coming from what they knew. They were only coming from their own perspective, from their own places of hurt and protection. And in reality, they were coming from a place of love. They thought that they were coming from a place of love for you. Now, this could also be past romantic relationships. So perhaps you were in romantic relationships that did the same thing, that either you feel have hindered you from expressing the best version of yourself, or that the relationships showed a negative side to the masculine energy of creating, externally. And again, it's coming back to trying to view those relationships with love and those connections that you have in life, to transmute that feeling of, I might have, and it's interesting because it will come up. And I know this even from my own personal experience, that as you start to interact with the world from a place of personal power. So if you bring it back to the Superman example, imagine you're Superman and you just discovered you could fly. And you're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I can fly. And you like go around and you do little twirls in the air and you zip here and there, and then you stop. And you go, wait a second. Did my dad know that I could fly this whole time? How come this part of me was never brought up? How come my dad so focused on wanting me to just pick some, let's leave it in the world of superheroes. How come my dad so focused on getting me to, be like Spider-Man and be able to spin a web out of my wrist, which I was never able to do because I can't do that, when I could fly this whole time, and he could have just told me and focused on that. And then you start to move into the world of regret, of or frustration or anger against other people in your life, of look what you held me back from. How could you have hid this from me? When in reality, it's always been there for us to see. We just had to learn in these lessons and in our interactions with others that this is that big lesson, coming back to yourself. That you're always going to interact with others, but you can't let them prevent you from disconnecting to that connection to self at all times. Because when you do that, that's how you miss engaging with your life from your own perspective, from the most authentic, best version of yourself. Everybody really, and this kind of ties back to the mirror, everybody really can only see what they can see. They only know what they know. A lot of times we'll look at somebody else and go, well, how can they not see that? It's so easy. I mean, how do they not know that? Duh. But in reality, you didn't know that until you knew it, until somebody pointed it out to you, or until you experienced it in your life, or until you watched something and it came up and suddenly you knew it. And so that's really where it's looking at people in your life that have perhaps impacted your ability to act authentically, to be the version of yourself that you want to be, that you were meant to be, that you feel called to be, and forgive them. And see them from a place of love, because they were only trying to come to you from a place of love. Now, it could be misguided, or it could just simply be that that's all they knew. That this was the life they lived, these are the experiences they had, and so they were trying to impart that on you from a place of love. And even if it was a bad relationship, a romantic relationship, perhaps that's how they learned to show love. Or perhaps you, and this is coming back to that trust and faith in the universe, perhaps you had to go through that negative experience with them to then be able to be open and appreciate something so much better, to realize, wow, now I see those warning signs. Now I see how that person manipulated me or cut me off from being authentic. So when you meet somebody who truly sees everything that's on your table and sees that you're Superman and can fly, you're going to sit there and say, oh my gosh, this is the one for me. This is the person for me. They see that my best talent is that I can fly, and they're not going to force me to try to shoot a web out of my wrist, which I can't do, and then chastise me when I can't do that. And that's really where we bless the bad relationships, because they open us up in their own ways to building that support system around us, to realizing what is true support for who we are as a unique individual, and what is not support, what is a connection that keeps us blocked from actually realizing our highest potential. If you consider that we are always growing, we are always evolving. When people say people don't change, of course we change. If we didn't change, we would remain the 7-pound infant we were at birth, that can't speak, can't walk, and that's truly dependent on somebody else and vulnerable to the world. But instead, as we evolve, we gain personal power. We learn what we're capable of. We grow physically. We grow emotionally. And when I talk about emotion, there's the element of spiritually. We grow. We understand how we connect on an emotional level to everything. We grow mentally. We are constantly expanding our base of knowledge. And all of that affects us physically as well. So we grow physically. And we can change ourselves physically. We can gain weight, we can lose weight, we can be athletic, we can not be athletic, but we can physically change ourselves. And that's a manifestation of how we can also emotionally and spiritually and mentally change ourselves. You can work the emotional side to just like a muscle, just like you would work a muscle in your arm or your leg. Same thing with the mental side to yourself. You can work on creating positive thoughts and opening yourself up to things and not overthinking and moving away from a place of fear-based anxiety to an optimistic, open, what if sense of awe and wonder in your thoughts by just practicing it. Just like you'd practice doing push-ups to build arm muscles. And so yes, we are always changing. And we're also always building. So it isn't about just like, well, we grow into this new version of ourselves and now we're different and everything before is gone. It's no, we're building on that's where contemplation comes in. We're building on what we've learned. We're continually self-educating. We're expanding our wealth of knowledge and experience so that we can each time transcend into a new version, a better version of ourselves. And then we transcend again and transcend again. And every time we do that, every time we elevate ourselves, we expand into the greater collective experience and we become part of that elevation. And then we have leap. It says, you go first. The universe will catch you. And this really kind of ties all of this in, that it's time to learn that you're Superman. It's time to reflect on perhaps the people in your life that have held you back from being able to outwardly express that part of yourself, to be able to understand that you can fly. And now the universe is saying it's time to jump. Now that you know you can fly, now you have to do it. And this is your point of transcendence. This is your point of growth and evolution. This month is going to take you by surprise. And not because it's going to throw some giant curveball or you're going to get a winning lotto ticket and your whole life is going to change because, externally. This is about internal shifting. And it's about cleaning off the film of a dirty window, and suddenly it's almost like the scene in Wizard of Oz where she steps out of the sepia-toned house and into the Technicolor world of Oz. It's gonna feel like that by the end, so much internally is going to be illuminated for you and will have changed, that what you're coming out of that month with is going to feel like your Superman discovering that he can fly. And you're going to repair and forgive those masculine influences that prevented you from being able to exhibit your own masculine energy. And you're going to bring that into balance to where now you can really go out and truly be yourself. To let others see that red cape blowing in the wind as you stand on the edge of that cliff and you fearlessly take that step off. And as we just to quickly go over the underlying energies here, we have 5th chakra Archangel Gabriel. And this does focus on the throat chakra as the 5th chakra. And when we think about the 5th chakra, it's about speech. It's about self-expression. And most of June is going to be in the sign of Gemini. And Gemini is a sign that's ruled by Mercury, which is about communication. And I really feel now Mercury will be going retrograde, which brings that internally back to us, to where we have to learn. It causes us to have a pause to learn how to express something better. And I feel here that that is what all of this is kind of coming up to, is that you're going to learn how to better be able to express yourself. That by the end of June, somebody asks you, tell me who you are, answer the I am question in a few sentences, you'll be able to stand up and say, I am Superman. And I am Superman and have the ability to fly. And from that point forward, you're coming from that place of authenticity. You're coming from that place of understanding. And you're not coming from a place of communicating from a sense of hurt, communicating from a place of defensiveness, of I'm Superman, and I can fly, but I've never been able to really be able to fly because people in my life have held me back, and blah, 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 blah. No, it's I am Superman and I can fly. And that's all that needs to be said. Because then everybody's all you're going to hear is shocked, like, what? Really? Show us. And that's what this is leading up to. In your advice, we have take a moment. It says, stop. Now is not the time to rush into the decision you're about to make. Before this important decision is made, take a moment to pause and quiet your mind so that you can ask your soul for guidance before you act or move forward. And I think that just ties in across the board right here. It's about coming back to you. It's about forgiving others and understanding there's always going to be external circumstances. You will always be surrounded by others, and you cannot control another's actions. The control in your life comes from you controlling yourself. You controlling yourself. You being able to tap into yourself and understand what feels good to you and what doesn't. What feels authentic and what doesn't. So that you will not get tripped up in the future by people who might try to hold you back. Once you know you're Superman and you can tap back into yourself, you can say, okay, knowing that this is who I am, is this experience in my best interest? Does it feel good to me? Does this person I'm interacting feel good? If they don't, and it doesn't, well, you don't have to continue to interact with them or put yourself in a place of a lack of power. You can choose to be guided by yourself. It is truly your life. Keep in mind, you are the singularity. Only you can live your life. No one can live it for you, nor can you or should you live for another. Now you can, let's say if you're a parent, you can want to be there to support your children, but you are not there to either A, live your child's life for them, or vice versa. Your life is not lived through your children. you are your own unique entity that is meant to be a part of the greater all, just like your children are meant to be a greater part, a part of the greater all. But still, you are here to live your life. And hopefully it benefits lots of people, including, if you're a parent, your own children. But ultimately, you are responsible to yourself, to your experience, to your evolution, because the more that you focus on that, the more you engage authentically with your life, the more you are able to continue your forward elevation to the best version of yourself. And then we have down here for your words of encouragement, we have Lemuria, creating heaven on earth, it's happening. And this is so beautiful. It's one of my favorite cards in that deck. Actually, these two cards I think are my two favorite cards in general. And it really highlights that, for me, one thing that I truly believe and feel is that we each have our own version of heaven. And this ties directly into we are each our own singularity. No two individuals' view of what heaven is will ever be the same. Each person's needs are completely different. And there is that saying of one man's, heaven is another man's hell, and that's absolutely the truth. So what you think might be the most wonderful thing ever, somebody else might look at that and go, oh my God, that would be like a nightmare for me. And that's totally okay. And that's also why we don't live in heaven. Earth is at a place that we can we can seek out our own corner and create our own piece of heaven for ourselves. It isn't about trying to then make that heaven for everybody. It's about learning enough about ourselves and evolving enough in our own self to understand what heaven is for us uniquely. And not imposing it on others, but just focusing on creating it for ourselves. And everybody's version of heaven connects in some way that we probably will never understand. But that in doing so, elevates the collective experience. And so this is really where it's time to focus on your version of heaven on earth, not somebody else's version of heaven on earth, not this strange, protective, mirrored world where you're in this bubble. It's your version of heaven on earth, and it's you interacting with everything in an authentic way. It's not hiding from it or creating a false reflection of it. It's having faith that it's your destiny to have everything that will make you feel emotionally fulfilled. And have that confidence that when you are ready to, when you realize that you're Superman and you're ready to take that step off the edge of the cliff, that is where you're going to experience that little first taste of heaven. And then you can continue to grow on that. All right, Scorpio, that is where I'm going to leave you. If you'd like to get a expanded message, so what I do on my Patreon page is I actually have a separate reading for every sign on there. It is different from this reading. It goes more into love, health, and abundance, blocks that are associated with that and how to overcome those for the month of June. And in addition, there are on that Patreon page always going to be some type of lesson or practice to integrate into the month to start to teach you how to re-engage with life, start to bring you back into that seat of personal power and bring you back into an element of awareness so that you really can answer that I am question, that you're month to month continually self-illuminating. If you'd also like to book a personal reading or a one-on-one coaching session, the link to my website is in the description box below. I hope you all have a fantastic month. I have a few Scorpios in my life and I can't wait to see what they discover about themselves. I can't wait to see their Superman moment, and I wish you all the best. I will see you next time. Bye.